Good morning, everyone, and welcome back. It's Terry. Welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to another edition of an Orchid A Day. So, I returned back from New York last night. Well, yesterday afternoon, and was told unexpectedly, or found out that it was to be in the low 40s tonight or last night, when I thought it was gonna not be that cold until the weekend. So instead of thinking that I was gonna have a day to plan on moving some of my shelves from outside back in here, and then having the luxury of organizing things on those shelves so that they match the space and so things can fit in, I had to just last minute start bringing things in. A lot of stuff is still outside, but I needed to bring in all of my heat loving plants. And in addition to that, while I was gone, I received an order which I would more or less say is a replacement order. The order consisted of this plant, which is a wonky Paphiopedilum henrianum. That's a fairly nice size. It's got a couple new growths coming up. I got this because I lost the one that I had. It got cold in the window sitting down there. Actually, what it was it was sitting on this table, and I tend to water from above, and I know some of the water splashed in into the crown of its leaves. So now that's why I have it sitting on the shelf up here. Yeah, where I can see where I'm watering and be more careful. The other thing that came in that order was this plant, and this is a replacement that I had for a couple of years. This is my Orchid Stephanie Takasaki. Didn't expect it to be in bloom, even though it's past its bloom. Still pretty. This is it's named Orchid. I'm not sure if it's still Orchid, but that's what I've always known it as. But it's more or less an Epilalia cattleya cross. It's some form of Epidendrum Stanfordianum crossed with, I want to say, Trick or Treat, LC Trick or Treat, or Catante, something like that along those lines is what it is called now. But that particular cross has several different variations, because I used to have a couple of crosses that didn't look anything like this, that were that had the same parentage. But the other thing that came in the order, which wasn't a replacement, was this. And this is a plant that I've wanted for a while. This is a plant that I am relinquishing myself to the fact that I'm going to have to keep this in my house on my kitchen island, because this is a cool growing plant. But this particular plant has always been on my list. I've always been fascinated by it, particularly just because among Paphiopedilum growers for this particular type of path, it's like the holy grail to have blooming sized of plants of path Charlesworthii, which is what this species is. This plant is from southern China and India and Thailand, and as I said, it's a cool growing plant, grows on steep cliffs amongst rocks and cracks in the rocks. So earlier I had mentioned that this plant was the holy grail amongst hobbyists of path hobbyists, aficionados, and what I mean on that is twofold. Is in addition to the desirability of the way that the plant grows, the flower is very delicate. Well, this one isn't. It's very wonky. It just came out of a box and sat for a few days. But those of you who know Charlesworthii, I know this plant, the flower is very coveted. and also because of the plant size where it stays very compact, and that's as big as it will get. But as we all know, it's very difficult to find Path Charlesworthy Eye. Nonetheless, find an affordable, mature, blooming size plant with a couple extra fans on it, and that was more or less what convinced me to get it, because there is no way that I would ever get a small seedling, much less pay the top dollar prices that those plants would get. So this was a relative steal compared to what normal Path Charlesworthy Eye. But back to the topic, it's the specific cultural requirements that this plant requires are what really stumps a lot of people, because specifically the humidity, they need high humidity in the summertime, spring to summer, which is their monsoon season in nature. So they like copious amounts of water up until late fall, which most people prescribe by the Halloween to Valentine's Day thing. I tend to as well. So copious amounts. They are in shade. They like lots of breezes, good aeration at the roots, but as I said, lots of water with high humidity in the wintertime. They still like water, but it gets tapered off until you just let them stay drier for a little bit longer, even though that is most difficult for a lot of people. But at that time in the winter, their humidity drops way down to about 55%. And so that is something that they really need to have in order to be maintained successfully. And so that is something that I will have to pay attention to as I try to grow this plant. So in addition to that, when I eventually have to repot the plant, because as with all paths, their media, you have to pay attention to the media. They are very susceptible to the media breaking down. You have to add in organic media to their mix. For some moisture, they prefer it to be loose, some bark in there, maybe some perlite, but some sphagnum, chopped pieces of sphagnum. And also, in addition, because they pretty much grow bare root on cliffs, they need an addition of limestone, or lime in some way. And so that is another thing. Also, it is recommended to have either like holy clay pots. In probably my situation, as far as my summer heat, clay would be better as far as retaining that moisture and that adding extra humidity to the mix in there. But most people might prefer plastic, which, I like plastic as well. So it's clear, so you can see, or I'm talking about the clear plastic, so you can see inside of the pot what's going on with the roots and things like that. Plastic, but with lots of holes, extra holes in the sides of the pot to make sure that it gets lots of good air into that mix to keep the roots dry, but yet able to maintain or get or receive moisture. And those are really some of the specific requirements that this has demanded hobbyists like myself and you to be able to cultivate this plant, and what has added a lot to the mystique of it. So yeah, I am very excited, and there's no way that I would ever be able to afford blooming one, just that's one by itself. But that with two new growths that are emerging, that's just fantastic. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and if you've enjoyed my video and are enjoying watching an Orchid A Day, please subscribe to my channel to get more of these videos or videos like this. And have a good day. Bye.